Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has this morning inspected the ongoing mass production of new generation police uniforms at the NYS Textile and Garments Technology Institute in Ruaraka. The CS has lauded the work that began last week with the production of 900 uniforms per day using a workforce of 250 majority NYS trainees. The CS said the government is not going back on this decision that has rubbed some people the wrong way. Ken Mijungu is at the production area in Ruaraka and brings us the latest. Ken, what did the CS have to say?
Okay, Olive, we are still here. We have been here for the better part of the morning, and the good news is that finally the manufacturing of the police uniforms that was launched sometimes last year has generated a lot of mixed reactions based on the fact that the government made a deliberate decision to be making these uniforms within. And just to note that about 900 uniforms are produced each day. The work has been going on from last week. So if you calculate the period, perhaps in their stores today, they have about 7,000 of that. And of course, the work will continue until all the police are fitted with the blue uniform that has now become very famous. In the last few months, we've only seen perhaps the top leadership of the police wearing this. But in the coming months, it will be rolled out and we will have probably the whole country covered in blue, because that's the new uniform. Now, the good news also is that they are using a lot of the National Youth Service personnel who they have trained in the production process. They are about 3/4 in the production line, and then we have the other quarter of casuals who are employed from outside. I was speaking to one of the leaders here, and she told me that they don't discriminate. In fact, we saw even people with disability who have been employed. They have one or two things they can still do. So that's the good news, because they are also putting a lot of manpower from NYS into this production. So we are right behind that production line, the School of Fashion and Design, and they're using 4 factories in the country to bring the garments here, including Rivertex and Thika, just to mention 2 of them that are supplying the material. The CS earlier said that they're not going back on this decision to produce this police uniform locally, and he even used the word of we will be foolish not to be using our local capacity to produce this. And suffice to know, Olive, or to note that you remember last year, December, the uniform, official uniform that President Uhuru Kenyatta was wearing for the military, it was also made right here. They've been doing that for the police, for the military, and now they've gone to the police, who are the majority in this country. And this is what the CS had to say earlier about what's happening here.
You cannot support manufacturing theoretically. You do it practically by spending our tax resources sensibly in buying what we can make locally. Because that's how we create jobs, that's how we support our farmers, that's how we grow our economy, and that is what any responsible citizen of our country is expected to do. And I think we are responsible citizens. That's what we are going to do.
Right, that was the CS earlier. But even as we talk about the positive side of the production here, we spent some time since the CS left about an hour and a half ago, and we've spoken to the personnel here, Olive, and the story they tell us is not the same story that the CS is trying to paint, the story of a good thing going on. For example, the casuals have told us that when they were employed here, they're supposed to be paid 910 shillings a day. They've worked for about 2 months, and for that 2 months, they've only been paid 5,000 shillings. Now, the CS also alluded to the fact that this facility was installed here over 40 years ago. Now, they've also spoken about the state of those machines that they say are also friendly to them, and they're even poking holes into the aspect of the ability to roll out this program and to get the uniforms in time, because they're saying the machines are old and some of them are not in service, as was alluded by the CS, saying that we've wasted a lot of time with a facility that we should have used long ago. So they're raising those concerns about their payments, about their working conditions, something that perhaps the Interior Ministry and the Labor Ministry needs to look into, even as they celebrate this project right behind us. Back to you, Olive.
Yes, there. Now we cross over to Seth Olale, who's on the Naivasha Maimahi Road. Seth, I read that the road has been closed due to cracks. What caused it? Is it the tremor or is it poor construction?
Well, there are a lot of versions that are coming out since this particular incident happened yesterday, and just to bring a clear perspective of what we're talking about, it is all about this particular crack that was being caused along on the Chechnya Bridge. Remember that this is the Naivasha Mahiu Highway, and this is a very key installation because many cracks, many motorists usually use this particular road, to go either to Naivasha or to Mahiu, but that has been closed because of what was caused here. That was yesterday, and right now traffic has been diverted. This is just a detour that has been created by some of the authorities at this particular point, and as you can see that the traffic has clearly been diverted. This is about almost a kilometer stretch, and they're just doing this to ensure that no motorists actually come up the bridge because of the current situation that was caused actually yesterday. And we have different versions from people here, and what is happening right now is that engineers are still assessing the situation. They were here very early in the morning. They are yet to speak to us. They're saying that they are doing a detailed report before speaking to the media, but right now we just want to talk to someone who is actually a resident here and just tell us the situation on this particular road, what has happened or what happened, and according to you and according to residents, what might have caused this. I'll hold the mic for you.
Okay, actually it has been very bad because this road 3 years ago it started cracking, and when you look down there, it's because of the construction, poor construction. That is the cause of everything. And that is why we are getting problems each and every time we face where constructors are going.
What particular time did residents first notice this particular crack?
Today, yesterday at around Sasita at night. That is when I had a bang, a big bang. So when I came here, I found a big hole there. And there was a vehicle and a lorry going towards Naivasha. So, in fact, it had a puncture just down there. So, I think we better do something so that we get away of removing this thing, yes, so that the whole the transporters can get away with these things.
Thank you so much, sir. And just to, like I told you earlier, is that we have engineers from the Kenya National Highways Authority who are waiting in this particular place. They came as early as 6 a.m. and they are currently assessing this particular bridge. And so what we're going to do, we'll just try to attempt and just to get the real perspective of how this particular bridge has been damaged, because we are being told that vandalism might also be a cause of it, because underneath the bridge we've seen actually that some of the metal, or rather the installation that was put, have been removed, and it is not clear who removed them. And so we will just try and get to see what lies under the bridge, because what's on top actually is a crack that has actually now made the bridge to be entirely closed, and this happened since yesterday. But this is what we're talking about. We're actually now just under this particular bridge, and as you can see, we have some metal installation that is just holding on this particular bridge. But what some of the engineers, or rather some of the Kenya officials who have been taking reports and doing the assessment here, they say that some of this installation have been removed, and it is not clear who removed them, but is being suspected it is actually vandalism. And so this is a major concern for some of the experts who are actually assessing this particular bridge, because they say that it has been systematic, and that these particular iron rods were in particular about 10 or more than 10, and right now, as I can physically count them, there are just 3 of them that are remaining. And so this could be also might be one of the reasons, maybe what caused this particular crack to happen yesterday. But remember that this is just some of the opinions that are being given by residents here. the authority, which is Kenya, is yet to give an official report, and they say, or rather they told the media that they're going to do that after they complete assessing the whole scenario. And right now, like I mentioned earlier, we have a DITA, that's just a road that has been enacted to help, or rather to ease traffic at this particular place at this particular moment. But right now we're just under this particular bridge, and that is where, right above me, where this particular crack happened yesterday, and it has interrupted traffic flow. Remember that there were fears that actually this particular crack might have been caused by a fault that originated from Sunday night's tremor that was actually witnessed, or rather realized, at various points, various counties in the country. We are talking about Nairobi, Kiambu counties, we're talking about Machakos and Taita Taveta at Undani, to be specific, where this particular tremor is believed to have originated from. But as it stands here in Naivasha, what is happening is that we have engineers from the Kenya National Highways Authority who are still assessing this particular place, and they will give us a report, as they promise, hopefully, what might have caused actually this particular crack just to happen, or rather how this crack came about along the Mahiu Naivasha highway. Back to you, Olive.
Thank you, Seth, for walking us through the possible reasons that crack could have formed. Now to Northeastern matters. National Assembly Leader of Majority Aden Duale wants the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate allegations that counties in the arid and semi-arid areas are employing staff with fake academic certificates. Speaking during the Pastoral Education and Career Fair held in Garissa Primary School, Duale said graduates with genuine academic papers are jobless, while those who acquired the papers through the back door are occupying big positions in the county governments. The National Assembly's leader of Majority said the affected counties are Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, Isiolo, Samburu and Turkana.
As you all know, that is a serious fraud. Mtu ameenda university, tumemlipia bursary, amekuwa University of Nairobi, amefanya accountant. Sasa mkubwa yake, his boss, ni mtu ambaye alipata D- akaenda River Road, akachukua degree fake, ndio sasa kudosi anaitwa director, anaitwa GPS. Na mkishikwa msikuje kunielia. Tunataka kila mtoto akule jasho yake.
Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi and his Mombasa counterpart Hassan Joho have reiterated the need for Kenyans to support the fight against graft. Kingi blamed corruption for the collapsed Galana Kulalu project, saying that billions of shillings meant for the project were stolen.
Na ile kampuni ambayo ilipatiwa ile kazi ya kuzalisha mahindi pale ilituambia kwamba ikiwa mifereji hii ya ufisadi itafungwa pale ule mradi wa Galana Kulalu, ndani ya miezi mitatu mahindi itakuwa inavunwa pale Galana Kulalu.
Yani hisabu hiyo, hizo sufuri unavyoziandika hizo, jamaa mmoja akwambia hizo si lolote si chochote. Tunataka kusema rasilimali ya Mkenya lazima ilindwe. It does not matter who you are.
Amani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi has dismissed claims that the fight against graft is targeting a particular community and called on President Uhuru Kenyatta to crack the whip on the corrupt government officials. Speaking during a funds drive in Singo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Mudavadi said the growing list of corruption scandals was already scaring away investors. Mudavadi said he would soon release a mega dossier, which he claims Jubilee administration has issued over 50 licenses for setting up of tea factories to individuals who do not even plant the cash crop.
Wewe mlisalimiana na Raila, umeeleza vile mlisalimiana kwa muda wa mwaka mmoja, lakini bado watu wanazidi kupora mali. Waacha mambo ya kusalimia watu, toa pingu. Toa pingu. Pingu. Hiyo.
Musalia Mudavadi, they're demanding action and not just rhetoric in the war against graft. Now, as political leaders engage each other on various issues, calls for change to the constitution continue to grow among the electorate. According to the latest InfoTrack poll, 2 in every 3 Kenyans support a referendum. Here are those findings. The findings of a poll conducted by research firm InfoTrack in February shows that 65% of Kenyans are in support of a referendum. This marks a 21% growth of pro-referendum numbers compared to last December, when 44% were in favor of one. It is worth noting that in December, the respondents were given the I don't know option, while in the latest poll, they only had the yes or no options to choose from. Of the 65% in favor, 52% are in support of a referendum whose objective would be to fix the ambiguities contained in the Constitution, while 38% support a referendum which they believe can reduce the number of elected leaders. 62% of those polled support the scrapping of the woman representative post, and 59% want the position of senator done away with. The greater majority, at 59%, are opposed to the scrapping of the position of MCAs, while 57% support the creation of positions for leaders of the opposition in the National Assembly and the Senate.
MCAs are the face of devolution, and as such, many Kenyans are reluctant or against the scrapping of the position of MCA.
The 35% who oppose a referendum deem it unnecessary, too expensive, and only intended to serve the interests of the political class. Notably, the number of those opposed to a referendum in central Kenya has increased from 35% in December to 45% in February, while opposition to a referendum has declined in all the other regions. As for the system of government, 72% support a presidential system over a parliamentary one. Now, echoing their fellow NASA counterpart Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka and his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula have faulted President Uhuru Kenyatta over what they term as empty threats in the war on graft. The two political leaders have urged the president to step up and fully let the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to carry out their constitutional mandate. Zacchaeus Mwasame with the latest call for sterner action against corruption.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka was in Mkhoya Catholic Church in Kabuchai constituency for a fundraiser. Flanked by a number of area leaders, Kalonzo and Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula took issue with President Uhuru Kenyatta's frequent threats to corrupt leaders, claiming that it's the right time to bring them to book.
And for the first time you said what I've been telling you, whether it's your brother, it's your ally, it's your cousin, it's your friend, whoever it is, kama ameweka mkono kwa kikapu ya umma, shika yeye, peleka mahakamani.
We have no time to lose. And this war against corruption and graft has to be won. We have no two-way traffic about it. Na mimi nimejitolea, wakishindwa mimi nitaongoza maandamano na Weta.
This country looks upon him. He should stop crying like a baby. We should begin to see him deal with them sacaphoniously.
Politics was not far behind as the Wiper party leader sought support from his hosts ahead of the 2022 elections.
Sisi tunataka 2022. We don't want party. We want to be national government.
We are going to form government with others, or others may form government with us.
Well, the leaders say that the tough-talking President Uhuru Kenyatta has become toothless and that this is the high time for the institutions charged with the fighting graft should swing into action. Zacchaeus Mwasame, NTV, Bungoma.
Speaking of rhetoric, the government has been blamed for failing to provide the logistics that would enable residents of Tiaty Baringo access relief food as the ravages of drought continue. Local leaders say the food remains locked in stores while the people who need it are still starving to death. Led by Nandi MP Alfred Keter, the leaders who distributed food to the vulnerable also faulted the government for failing to acknowledge the extent of the problems arising from the drought and famine. So far, more than 20 people have died in what is believed to be hunger-related complications in Tiaty alone, with more in dire need of food.
Joseph. Ben. Unaona sauti ya
Umesema bibi yake alikufa, unasikia mwamesema mama amekufa, na tunashangaa wakubwa wanasema watu hawajakufa. Bado tunashangaa mpaka leo. Si ni kweli? Ama sio maajabu? Ama nyinyi mnaona hiyo nzima?
Sisi tunataka kueleza serikali yetu ya national government ambao inaongozwa na Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta ya kwamba wakati wameleta mahindi, tunasikia waziri wa devolution wa Malwa alikuwa hapa na wameleta vyakula. Tunaomba wale ambao wanafanya kazi hiyo wahakikishe ya kwamba chakula ambao imeletwa ipelekwe kwa manyumba za watu ili wakule. Chakula bila kuliwa sio chakula, inakuwa kama mchanga ama mawe. Kwa hivyo lazima wahakikishe kila mtu, kila wakaaji wa hapa, kila kijiji.
More than 60 families from Isili Estate in Elburgon, Molo Sub-County have been left homeless after a fierce fire gutted down their houses last night. The fire razed wooden houses at 9 p.m. Sunday, leaving families out in the cold. The cause of the fire has not yet been established, but the incident comes barely a week after another 50 families were left homeless in Mwatu area in Kasarani slums in Elburgon town. Victims are appealing to the county government to avail a fire engine in Elburgon town. The families are also appealing for help from the government and other well-wishers to assist in the rebuilding.
Serikali kama yaweza tusikia kilio chetu cha Elburgon hii, isikie kilio hii, maana kwamba Elburgon hawana gari la kuzima moto, iko Nakuru. Hebu imagine kutoka Nakuru mpaka hapa watakuta nyumba gani imebaki?
Fiery resident of Elburgon speaking there. Now, lack of public awareness on how to access funds set aside for people living with disability has remained a challenge to many families. Due to this, those living with disabilities are facing a myriad of challenges in accessing amenities. In Bobasi constituency, Kisii, Ongeri Auta and his two brothers paint a grim picture of people living with disability without the special funds.
Ongeri Auta, born in 1947, was a healthy child until he took his first steps. Just like his two older brothers, he could no longer walk.
Kama nitaka niende town, tena niende na watu wawili, si moja na mbili. Nafika town, narudi, nyamaje, nafika hapa na pikipiki. Paka hapa. Hata haja, nikamata tu paka haja.
His movements now are assisted. Ongeri got married to Doris Nyaboke in 1979. Nyaboke says she was past the disabilities and has never once regretted the decision.
Nilikuja hapa 79. Ninaona napata baramabu. Hiyo baramabu nilikuwa naishi na mpaka sasa. Mmoja huyu na wengine walikuwa watatu. Kila kitu nilikuwa nawasaidia, natafuta sana, ninasindu sasa.
But she says with her advanced age, she now needs assistance. A number of homesteads in the area have at least one or more people living with a different form of disability.
Akawa miezi 7 kama hajakaa, nikaanza kuchukua hospitali. Hospitali ilikuwa Central Kericho. Nikifika pale, akapatikana kwa hizi joints ziko weak. Sasa mtoto amekuwa tu lemu hivyo, lakini yako vizuri, kila kitu ni hizi. Bones ndio zilikuwa nini? Joints ndio iko mbaya peke yake, na kuongea ndio aongee.
They lack information on enrollment to the Disability Fund program.
Naomba serikali, tulikuwa tunasikia wanakuwa msaada, sisi hapana fada. Tunatafuta sana.
Eunice Omolo, NTV.
On to matters business, the board of Uchumi supermarket has given a green light for restructuring of the retailer's debt in a bid to steer the company to a recovery path. This means the retailer will be engaging creditors to renegotiate the terms of its debt. Favorable terms sought through debt restructuring often include extension of the loan repayment duration. Uchumi's debt restructuring plan is, however, by voluntary arrangement and awaits approval by creditors. If approved, the plan will be expected to to resuscitate the retailer, which reported a loss of 1.7 billion shillings in the full year that ended June 2017. Last week, Uchumi appointed Owen Kweimburi to serve as supervisor in addressing creditors' interests as the retailer looks to rebound its business. Kenya Breweries Limited (KBL) has signed a partnership deal with Eat Out Kenya to promote Kenya's culinary destinations. The purpose of the partnership is to promote and market Kenya's exquisite dining experiences while at the same time popularize food outlets through the campaign. Kenya's eating out culture has been growing over the years, with more eateries setting up their businesses in ways that offer diverse experiences.
So we began with Nanyuki at the Soms restaurant, where we had an exclusive experience with our White Cap influencers and consumers, and also our restaurant partners as well, who then carried on the White Cap kind of led menus into the restaurants for brunch events. So similarly, this quarter we are back, in fact bigger and better, concluding the Diani branch, big branch. So again, a perfect destination, as you know. Diani is a beautiful, scenic destination and fit for a brand like White Cap to also showcase its beer credentials, paired that with amazing food dishes, locally made as well, also inspired from all over Kenya. So the big branch is really to showcase the beauty of Kenya and the adventurer spirit within us. As younger consumers coming up into the category, the beer drinking category, how do you recruit these consumers in?
On to the international scene, Thailand's election results have been delayed due to reports of irregularities and inaccurate data after the Electoral Commission said the junta party, which is a pro-military outfit, was leading after the preliminary results. By Sunday night, the results were so close that the Election Commission cancelled the expected official announcement of the outcome. The Electoral Commission has said it will finalize the results by May. The disbanding of a militia. This came a day after the massacre of more than 130 Muslims, including women and children.
Prime Minister Sumelo Bobe Maiga has said that new military chiefs will be named and that the Dan Nan Ambasagao Association
In sports, and there will be no much time for rest for Harambee Stars and the technical bench, who returned from Ghana after finishing second in Group F with a 1-0 loss, as coach Sebastian Minye has now set his eyes on the team's preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations in Cairo, Egypt. Meanwhile, Tanzania became the 4th East African country to qualify for the Continental Showpiece in Cairo, Egypt.
Harambee Stars coach Sebastian Minye is planning to embark on building on the team's preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations tournament with lessons learned from the qualifying stage. Minye was speaking upon the team's return from Ghana after going down by a solitary goal in the final Group F tie that saw Kenya finish second in the group.
This is football, and when something rises, people will have just to look for something to talk about, you know. If you look at that ball that we considered at that minute, we lost the ball in the midfield, and then when my defense was still going out, the striker managed to beat them. So the reaction I did was it was just a little miscalculation.
Ukiangalia pia vile tulicheza hiyo game ya Saturday, ilikuwa ni game ngumu, but tunashukuru kwa wachezaji vile walijitolea. Angalau tulijaribu vile tunaweza, although hatukupata ile kitu tulikuwa tunataka.
Minye expressed his disappointment with the result, and his headache begins now as he ponders on what players to exclude in different departments of the squad. Harambee Stars will take part in a 3-week camp in France in May as a precursor to the Continental Showpiece before heading to Egypt, where Kenya will be making their maiden appearance in 15 years.
I don't forget what he did before for us, for me, you know. It's the life of a team. It's different for goalkeeper because Victor, Masoud, Olunga, when he's there, can commit a mistake after there is some teammate to come back and to try to repair the mistake. When you're a goalkeeper, it's more difficult.
And to the other last round of qualifying matches, Tanzania beat rivals Uganda 3-0 in Dar es Salaam to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations finals for the first time since 1980. The Taifa Stars
secured a thrilling 3-2 win over Netherlands after the Orange fought back from 2 goals behind in their European qualifier in Amsterdam on Sunday night. Leroy Sané, Serge Gnabry and Nico Schulz scored for the Germans, while Memphis FC both dropped points this weekend as the FKF National Super League entered round 22. Shuru meanwhile played out a 2-2 draw with Kibera Black Stars at the Kamtoyo grounds to remain top on 48 points. Brian Yakama netted a brace for the Taxmen with Evans, Chief and Denix Wanyama on target for the Black Stars. Wazito lost 1-0 at home to Migori Youth with Clinton Okoth netting the lone goal in the first half, a goal they held on for their fourth win of the season to remain in second place on 47 points. Nairobi Steamer is third, 2 points behind Wazito following their 1-0 win over Coast Steamer in a derby played at the Karuturi grounds. Kenya Police, Administration Police and Shabana registered 3-1 wins. And Ulinzi Stars have reappointed veteran tactician Benjamin Nyangweso as head coach, taking over from Dunstan Nyaudo, who has been deployed as technical director. Nyaudo replaced Nyangweso early last year after a poor run of results, but it seems Ulinzi have once again called upon the services of their former player turned coach. Nyangweso will take charge in his first match back in on Wednesday when his side hosts Sony Sugar at the Afraha Stadium. The Soldiers are currently placed 10th on the log on 18, or rather on the Kenyan Premier League on 22 points. And Sahib Omar emerged the winner in the third round of the KCB National Autocross Championship, which culminated at the Jamhuri Park racetrack on Sunday. Defending champion Sahib bagged 2 bonus points for setting the fastest time of 2 minutes 12.84 seconds in the day. Rajput, the defending champion, won the Bambino class, beating Tsevis Sony. Ilian Mughal of Izmir Racing came in third. Zamir Varji was victorious in the two-wheel drive non-turbo class, ahead of Sahir Mughal and young Rajveer Sethi. Shalin Mughal, driving an Attacker 1 buggy, won the two-wheel drive turbo class ahead of Kunal Patel and defending champion Imran Hakada. The next round will be in April. That's the latest in sports. A lot more in our subsequent bulletins, but for now, back to you, Olive.
Thank you, Otwal. Now, that's it for me, but we leave you with this. For young children, a family setup is a place of security and comfort, one where basic needs are provided and rights safeguarded. But what happens when the safe haven turns out to be the very threat to their basic human rights? In 2008, an American couple came to Kenya on a missionary expedition. Their mission was to provide family care to orphans and other vulnerable children, educate and promote Christianity and its values. In their decade-long stay in the country, the missionaries are accused of leaving the children traumatized as the relevant authorities failed to detect and act upon the blatant child rights abuses. NTV investigative reporter Edmond Nyabola unraveled what happened exactly and who failed the children. Now here's part 1 of Praying Missionaries.
Boito location, Konoin constituency, Bomet County. It is a village of relatively high poverty and low literacy levels. Small-scale tea farming is the main economic activity here. Just the perfect setting for Gregory Hayes Dow and his wife Mary Rose Dow to undertake their charity work. About a kilometer off the Konoin-Litein Road in Kapsiratet, the couple leased this 1.5-acre property. They set up an orphanage equipped with a school and a church, which were both run by Gregory as director, teacher, and pastor. They called it the Dow Family Children's Home.
Hi, Davis.
Davis Bett worked for the Dows as a manager of the home from 2008 to 2013. For 5 years, he witnessed everything that happened here.
When they first came, this building was there because this used to be a secondary school for a neighbor here, with the name of Geoffrey Ngetich.
He tried to intervene when he thought things were inappropriate, but that eventually cost him his job.
I suspected something is wrong with Gregory, and they used to tell me that, Davis, I'm not a good person, all the time, until I asked him one day that, why do you say that, you wasn't a good person? He told me that back in the US, he had already been jailed over assault. He said that he had confrontation with his former wife, and he was put in jail. And he also told me that he was using the hard drugs. But he said that when he came back from the prison, he got saved and he's not using all that anymore. But something was wrong. He also had the behavior of swapping the guns on their butts. It's inappropriate for us here. And I told Gregory, it's not good for you to do that. He said, who cares about that,
Gregory's mild sexual advances were often overlooked, but soon after, these advances progressed to full-blown defilement of the girls who were aged between 10 and 15 years old at the time, taking away their innocence. Beatrice, not her real name and whose real identity we have concealed, has just returned home for the midterm school break. She is received with a loving embrace by her family. It is a kind of care she never had during her 9 years stay at the Dow family home. Alongside her younger brother, the 16-year-old joined the home in 2008 as an orphan aged just 6. Her experiences there are memories she'd rather forget. Sexual abuse, she says, was difficult to bear.
I was in one of the corners, so I couldn't hear him coming in and close the other doors.
What happened then?
And then after that, he came behind me, started opening up my shirt. Then I held on to my shirt so nothing can happen to me. Then he told me, if you stop moving, if you won't stop moving, I'm gonna slap you. Then I just had to stop moving, but I blocked my shirt from being opened. Then he tried to open my skirt because I had a skirt that could open. He opened my skirt. Then I was laying on the ground. He told me, if you don't be quiet, because I was crying. He told me, if you don't be quiet, I'm just gonna kill you.
How many times were you sexually abused by Mr. Dow?
I was 3 times.
Did you ever report this matter to anyone?
If you try to talk to anybody about this, and they realize about it, you'll get into further trouble, and it's not going to be easy because there's too many punishments that you get and you can't undertake them.
In your estimation, how many girls went through this?
For the girls, the Kenyan girls I know about, there's 7. Then there are 2 twin daughters, the Black Americans whom they adopted from the U.S.
Amati Smiler.
A few meters from Beatrice's home is Nancy's family farmhouse. It's not her real name, and we have concealed her identity as well. Here, Nancy and her 2 younger brothers were taken up by the Dows at a tender age.
Gregory told us to remove her clothes, and then Gregory slept on top of her. Then we were seeing that they were doing just with Gregory. Then I went to who was a worker there. Then I told her that is being raped by Gregory. Did not believe, so she just kept quiet. The next day again, Gregory was drunk. He came and called one of the guys whose name was and he took her upstairs. We followed her again. Then we were outside the bush and now peeping what's going on. Then she asked again, are you going to give me something? Then I said yes. Then Gregory told her to remove all her clothes and told her to sleep on the bed. Then we just saw Gregory sleeping on top of me. Then we called one of the teachers whose name was Madam. But she did not believe, so we just kept quiet to ourselves and knew that was being raped. So we just kept quiet. The next day again he took I took one of the girls again, whose name was, and he did the same thing.
In what appears to be a well-orchestrated scheme, the Dows hatched and executed a plan to prevent the minors from getting pregnant. Mary Rose, Gregory's wife, had the girls aged between 10 and 15 years old on birth control. She brought the girls here to Mogogo Sheikh Health Center, a government facility where the birth control implants were inserted under their skin.
When we got there, we were sitting at the family planning door. So I was wondering, why are we here? What are we doing here? Then she told me, you're going to get an implant in. So I tried to ask her, what does this all mean? Why do I need to get that in, and what is it? They didn't explain to me what it meant and everything. So when we got in, Mary Rose went in to speak to the doctor. When they were done, she called me in. Then when she was speaking to the doctor again, she clogged my ears so I couldn't hear what they were talking about. The doctor later on told me, get on the bed and put out your left arm. And I did as he told me. He rubbed my hand and then put it in, and he didn't let me see what it was.
Show me your hand where the implant was inserted.
Yeah, this is where they put it, and this is the mark that it left when they took it out.
Did you know what it was at the time?
I didn't know what it was and what it was for.
Did Mary ever tell you what was happening?
No, she never told us what it was and what was happening till they put this thing in.
How many girls in total had that implant?
We were all 9. 2 Black Americans and the rest of us Kenyans.
She took us and checked us that if we have HIV and AIDS, but we were negative, all of us. Then she took us to have again, to check us if we were pregnant. We were not.
That was one of the very rare times in which the children set foot into a hospital or any health facility. At the Dows, there were no medical services.
They will say that you guys, you like everything, medicine all the time. They will say when a child gets sick, you just give him water only, and the child will be okay.
When somebody gets sick, they say this is all drama. There was one time there was a boy named Amos. He got hit on the side of his hip with a heavy bench. Then the blood got clogged here and he started getting sick. They tried to explain this to Greg and Mary Rose, but then they kept on saying it's drama. One of the women named Williter took the boy secretly to the hospital. When they later on realized he was taken to the hospital, Mary Rose called him and took out the needles that he had in his hands and put a white tape around it and said, this is just drama, go and play with the other kids. When he comes back and tells them, I'm not feeling good, she says, this is just drama, go back and play with the kids. The next day, he was terribly sick. They saw now that this boy is very sick. So they tried to take him to the hospital, but it was too late.
Amos Kipkemoi died. He was only 8 years old. Joyce Kosgei was a matron at the home when he died. She recalls in excruciating detail the chilling trail of events that led to Amos's death. When she learned about his illness, Joyce sneaked him to a nearby clinic without the knowledge of the Dows.
I called Mary Rose, Gregory Dow. Will you please help me? The doctor says he's not going to treat the boy. Please rush him to the Kapkatet hospital. He told me, this is a drama. This is a drama, Joyce. I says, please, the doctor says you can rush him to the Kapkatet. Says, no, that's a drama. Is it a drama? And you think the child is so sick? And then in the morning, the women tell me, please, Amos didn't wake up. Go and help. Go and check on him. So I hold the boy. I ran towards Gregory because he was down to the office. I said, hey, Gregory, why don't you help me? Amos is still sick. He hold the boy like this, rush him in. He gave it to Mary Rose on the door. Says, Gregory, get the car. Rush him to the Kapkatet hospital, but it was too late. It was too late for him. There, he died there. Mary Rose keeps saying, Joyce, it's done.
At Amos's home in Chemoy Ben, our visit opens up the family's old suppressed wounds. They thought we had answers on how Amos met his death. This is where my grandchild was buried in 2014, she tells us. Speaking to us on condition that we conceal her identity, Amos's grandmother narrated how she painfully tried to get information on what exactly happened, just for closure. There were 3 mysterious deaths at the Dow Children's Home between 2008 and 2017. Amos and a young girl named Jessica both died out of complications from lack of medical care. They were buried at their parents' homes. That wasn't the case for James Kipkirui, who was only 1.5 years old when he died in 2012.
Gregory and Burrows were in Kericho, and at night they called me and said that, please, can you go to the home, and that was on 2012, and check on the boy. The guns are telling me that James Kipkirui is not, is motionless, you know. So when I came, I found the boy had already died. When they came, they told me to go look for the grandmother. Fortunately, I found the grandmother with the mother of the child. I explained to them, and I brought them. While on our way here, Gregory told me that, can you tell them that we can bury the child here? When we got here, the guys who were splitting the firewood had already dug the grave. So the child was buried here.
For a burial to happen, you require permits,
Yes.
which you get from the chief and other authorities.
Yes.
Was that done?
It wasn't done. I explained to Gregory, said that he has his own constitution. This is a small America in a village of Kapsiratet. He said that is a waste of time. He refused. And that is why when we came, they had already dug the grave. He wanted to do it very quickly. So I decided I jumped on that fence. I went to Geoffrey's. Geoffrey was not there. He was in Eldoret. But on my way to his house, I met with some guys, a pastor and some other 3 guys who had gone to pray for Geoffrey's wife. They said that we were coming in there to greet the children. I also explained to them what had happened here, and we came together. So coincidentally, as we were coming from that gate, Gregory and Mary was down, and the grandmother and the mother of the child were bringing the body. So we came here, we prayed, and the body was buried. I told, let's inform the chief's office. He told me, Davis, I've told you several times that you guys, you like meetings, you know. He said that in America, you go. It's not about talking and having meetings, and you know. So, but later on, after a week, I met with the chiefs. I explained to the chief.
So you did inform the authorities that a child had died and the body was buried here, but
Yes.
Nothing was done about it.
Yes, yes. And I also went to Bomet Children's Department. I met some guys in the office. I explained about this and how the mistreatment of the children. There was a child again who died by the name Jessica, and this child was very sick. She looked like she was dehydrated. And I called them. They used to stay in Kericho Tea Hotel. So I called Gregory and told, it seems like Jessica is not feeling well. So right there, Mary Rose was there with Greg. She picked the phone from Gregory and yelled at me and said, Davis, your time is up. Go home.
When the rest of you learned about the deaths of 3 of your colleagues and how the bodies were handled, how did you feel about that?
We felt very terrible because we wanted the kid to be taken to their home so that the parents and the family can do something better about it. Because James was put into a box and then just put in the ground. There was nothing they did about it, and we don't feel it was so right for them to do that.
The community here describes their relationship with the Dows as cold. They were only allowed into the home when there were guests from the United States, and the Dows had to put on a good show. They built a perimeter wall to keep everyone away and the children within the compound. The children were only allowed to go out on very special occasions. Geoffrey Ngetich was not just a neighbor of the Dows, but the landlord who leased the property to the family. He thought they were helping the community. His affection towards the couple changed over the years when he learned of suspicious activities within the home.
I could hear children crying loudly, yelling actually in pain. So I could run to the fence because this fence was sealed. There was no entrance to my place. So I could come and climb up the fence and shout at the workers and ask them what was going on. Why were they beating the children? Then they could stop beating them, and then I could call the Krigori and his wife and tell them about the same. Then the following day they could come and tell me that they have taken action. So what I witnessed was actually cruelty to children.
How the children were being punished, they will be told to go to line up. A child will be told to look, to face the wall. Okay. And there will be no meal for that. If it's lunch time, the child will not get lunch, same as in the evening. There was also these bags, the sacks that we put the maize. Yeah. They will sew those sacks for the kids. Whoever is not good, that is how they were punishing the children.
It was like beating up an animal, not a human being. They take a pipe, one of those water pipes, then they start beating the boy up until at times even they'll tell them to kneel down, put bricks on their backs, and then they're going to get beaten.
When child was get in trouble, like telling another kids bad words, they used to put the soap on their mouth. That's what I saw. And I says, why having the soap on the mouth? He says, this because he's talking a lot. He can shut the mouth.
There was 2 kitchens. Their food was prepared in one kitchen, and then our food was prepared in the other. And like the kids ate from a bowl at lunchtime. They told you when you put your fists together like this is how much food you need. So they do this to your fist, and that's how much food you get on your plate. And they said that's enough. For supper time, you eat out of a CK cup, and that's enough for you till tomorrow. Then you get more. If you go for more food, then you're gonna get punished because you're not allowed to go for more food.
For almost a decade, the children suffered in silence, not knowing where or who to run to for help. For the workers, being sacked, among other threats, forced them into silence. September 2017, the truth finally came out.
I understand he was totally drunk, and he dragged one of the girls to where he was sleeping, and he defied the girl, and unfortunately he forgot to close the door. So some young boys followed them. So the boys actually found them in the act.
This is where the boys peeped through that window and saw Gregory defiling one teenager who was here too. And that is how this whole thing came out. The boys were laughing and saying that he's having sex with him. After Gregory had sex with me, he sent to call her sister by the name. Understand he wanted to use that girl again. That girl refused to go in, and she went back to the classroom. Gregory went down and beat that girl thoroughly, removed her hair piece, and the whole thing blew up. Gregory assembled the kids and said that if you're not happy here, the gate is open. So the kids started jumping over the fence everywhere.
Nancy and another girl escaped. They reported the matter to the authorities.
Then the chief told them, go to the police station, I can solve that problem. The next day, Davis, the chief elder, and Ellen, the neighbor for that school, for torture and so, we went to the police station, and my mother and me. Then we went and reported everything to DO and DC.
Gregory learned beforehand that the authorities were after him. He fled the country, becoming a fugitive of justice. Mary Rose was arrested in Nairobi as she prepared to exit the country. She was charged in a Sotik court with 2 counts of cruelty to children and 2 counts of failing to protect children from sexual exploitation. Court records show that she was released on a 50,000 shillings fine after serving 5 months in custody. She left the country soon after, joining her husband in the United States. Authorities had the family planning implants removed and all the 83 children reintegrated into the community. Back in the US, the Dows have settled down in the state of Pennsylvania. NTV Investigates found them at their home in Lancaster. The family has kept away from the public eye ever since the Lancaster community caught wind of the story. We tried to get answers from the couple, but the house was locked from inside. Maggie Ruto is a Kenyan living in the United States. Her intervention to push for justice for the Boito children has raised awareness in the US about the allegations against Gregory and Mary Rose.
She did a good job.
Her case is compounded by the fact that Gregory is in fact a convicted child molester and a registered sex offender in the state of Iowa.
It was a sexual abuse on his own daughter from his first marriage, and he was actually convicted. His wife from the first marriage did present a detailed information about what transpired with their daughter.
NTV obtained these documents from the Iowa District Court showing that Gregory was charged with the crime of having lascivious acts on his daughter in 1996. It further details the events that took place in his house, so gruesome and disturbing to air on national television. Gregory pleaded guilty to the charges. The 60-year-old did not spend time in prison, but was on a 2-year probation until 1998. Maggie sought the help of the Kenyan women in the US, an initiative led by Lily Richards in the push for justice. Kwitu has been collecting signatures in a petition seeking the extradition of the Dows to face charges in Kenya.
He sexually molested little children. Some children are dead under very suspicious circumstances, and these kids were abused emotionally, psychologically, physically.
But the Dows have maintained their innocence in the wake of the allegations. In an interview with the Lancaster online news website, Gregory says, the neighbor and a former employee got a few rebellious teenage girls to lie and get his property back. Kenyans are highly volatile people. It's sad to say we live in a society where people are guilty until proven innocent.
Yes, so this is the title which I have.
Geoffrey, the owner of the property, refutes these claims.
This was purely lease, a 9-year lease. It came to lease in April 2008. April 2008. So the lease actually expired in 2017, April. By the time this act was discovered, that is in September, the lease had already expired. And they had not even updated the rent. So they were having my rent of about 6 months.
It's just impossible for people to let you live in their community for close to 9 years. And then on the last year, they decide, oh, wow, we just want to take your land. That's not what, I don't believe that's what happened.
Nearly 2.5 years since the Dow family children's home was closed, and the community here in Boito has yet to make peace with what happened here. Among the concerns they have raised is, how was a convicted child molester and a registered sex offender allowed to set up a children's home in the country and take care of vulnerable children? And how did the events at the Dow family home go on for about a decade without being detected by the authorities, that is the local administration and the Children's Department?
Kuna msichana ambaye mimi nasema alikuwa amefika kiwango cha kunini. Si walikuwa wadogo. Ndio alianza kuchukua kama wachanga tu. Sasa akaanza kwenda kuulisha baadaye kare.
Serikali walikuwa wanajua huko. Walikuwa inajulikana huko. Hata ukienda huko utapikwa. Ama namna gani? Na kwa nini huyu alikaa mpaka akatoroka?
The Department of Children's Services under the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection is responsible for registration of orphanages and ensuring the rights of children are protected. The department acknowledges licensing the DAOs to set up in Kenya in 2008. They even renewed their operating license in 2011, 2014 and 2017.
Gregory Dow, who was the director of the home, is a convicted child molester and a registered sex offender back in the US. How come the department did not do a proper background check before registering the home?
These people come through the immigration, they have work permits, yeah? So it is us, and I've stated very clearly, it is us when we are working with them, with the other stakeholders. Remember, my work is that we enlighten the children about their rights.
That's fine, and I understand that. I understand that that is work that is being done now. My question is, why was it not done in 2008 when a convicted child molester came and registered a children's home?
It is, for me, I don't know about what you are talking about. For me, I'm saying there was a manager, and it is the collaboration of the department plus the other arms of government plus other stakeholders on the ground which enabled this case to come out.
Would you say that the officers on the ground did not capture the accurate, nature of the events at the Dow family home?
An issue of children, it takes a long period, yeah? And it is not a one event. I've even given you an example of when sometimes we get reports, when we go, we find the reports are not as indicated. So in my case, in my view, the Area Advisory Council, they did what was within their law.
Would you say they failed in their job then?
That is my position. I don't want to be repeating the same thing the same time. I have given you the specific question, the specific answer. You are continuing on the same.
There were 3 deaths at the Dow family children's home during the period of the Dow's stay here in Kenya. One of the children, a boy by the name Kipkirui James, was actually buried within the home. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware.
You're not even aware about the healthcare services that were being provided there, or lack of them?
I'm aware about the health services, but I'm not aware about the deaths. Yeah. Normally, when there is a death in a CCI, there is a report which is given. Yeah.
So you're not given a report about that?
I'm not certain about that unless I'm not certain about that. Unless I find out more from our records here. But for that one, I'm not aware.
So do you say the Children's Department was not in touch with what really was happening?
What do you mean by that?
By not knowing, not being aware of what was happening.
You have been on the ground.
Yes.
You interviewed my officer on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? So for me, I'm not aware of what you are asking now here.
The County Directorate of Children's Services in Bomet, whose jurisdiction the home is under, monitored inspection visits and received reports through the Konoin Sub-County Area Advisory Council. They say they were not aware of suspicious activities at the Dow home for the 9 years they were in the country until the events of September 2017 became public.
We moved very fast to close this institution and do the tracing. We did the tracing for the 83 children. Those who had close relatives, okay? We reintegrate them.
The family home was registered in 2008, yes. And you only found out in 2017. That's about 9 years. Yes. For all this while, how did this happen undetected?
Before then, what happened in 2017, everything was going on well. Okay, but when the public now reported this case, when we went there, we interrogated the children. That is when we came to realize that this is what he did in that period.
This is a picture from the family's website. Yes. Mary Rose with 6 of the children from the family home. Could you just have a look at that picture? and tell me what you think is going on.
These children are somewhat traumatized. One is yawning. That means maybe they are malnourished, maybe they have some lack of food.
Then would you say your inspectors and your officers on the ground did not do their job in the right manner?
According to these children, even the workers, when we asked them, why is it that they had never told us about this information? They told us this director used to threaten them. That if you say this, then we are going to sack you from this institution. So these workers, the social workers, they used to live in fear. When they knew that we are visiting the home, they ensured that everything was in order.
Nehemiah Kones was the children's officer in charge of Konoin constituency at the time of the Dao stay in Boito. He, alongside the Area Advisory Council, chaired by Thomas Bett, the Assistant County Commissioner at the time, was responsible for inspecting the home and assessing whether children's rights were being adhered to. But in this report dated 23rd October 2013, Kones writes, the children are treated at Kapkatet Hospital and nearby Mogogo Sheikh Health Center. Kones and the Area Advisory Council gave the facility a clean bill of health in their reports, which was not reflective of the state of affairs at the home. Residents we spoke to say he was aware of the activities at the home but chose to ignore. He denies.
It was allegation, not full allegation. As a father, I felt so bad.
Did the local administration, say the chief of the area, visit the home at any time?
There was one time he visited the place when he brought in one of the children. Like, there were two twins. And that's the time he came in to that place.
Did he get, in your sense, an understanding of what really was going on there?
He wasn't told about anything that was going on there. But I think he knew because he was the friend of Gregory and they were talking.
The area chief, John Cheruyot, says he had no knowledge of anything regarding the Daos. His office, though, is located only 2 kilometers from the home.
Inasemekana huyu mzungu alikuwa anatumia watu wa area hii kufanya hiyo mambo yake ndio wanyamaze.
Sijui sasa alikuwa anatumia kwa sababu hakuna mtu alikuwa anajua siri ya huyu mzungu.
Kuna kisa cha mtoto ambaye alikufa pale, akazikwa hapo. Unajua nini kuhusu jambo hilo?
Mimi bado sikia kabisa hiyo kitu. Mimi bado sikia.
Ili mtoto azikwe inatakikana permit kutoka kwako.
Lazima permit apate, lakini sisi hako sikia hiyo maneno.
Hamkujua kuna mtoto alikufa na akazikwa pale?
Kabisa. Sisi hapana jua.
Mtu akiuliza kwamba labda mlilegea katika kazi yenu kufuatilia hii mambo na kuchunguza kwamba watoto walikuwa wanachungwa kwa hali ambayo inatakikana, atakuwa anasema uongo?
Kwa sababu tunajua tu wakati hao watoto wawili walikuja hapa tulijua siku hiyo. Sasa hakuna kitu kingine tunajua.
Kama chief unastahili kujua chochote ambacho kinaendelea katika eneo lako.
Lazima nijue, lakini mimi hakujua maneno ya huyu mzungu.
The children were reintegrated by the Children's Department upon the closure of the home in September of 2017.
I'm told Gregory had
Beatrice joined a local high school where she's had challenges learning Kiswahili. At the Daos, speaking in any language apart from English was an offense.
Have you received any form of counseling ever since leaving the home?
I haven't received any yet.
Do you ever think about what happened to you there, and does it trouble you?
It troubles me a lot, and I always think about it because, like, every time there's some things my grandmom can't do for us. So when I'm just there doing my studies or something, a lot of things of what happened comes back to me. Then it just like starts disturbing my mind and everything.
If you met Greg today, say he's brought back to the country to face charges, how do you feel about that?
I'll feel so like terrible to see him. I wouldn't be even like able to go up front to him because I just seem so terrible. I can't even forgive what he's done to us and everything.
What would you like to be done to him?
He'll just like I just want him to face like the government and the law so that he can know what he's supposed to do and what he's not supposed to do. I just want him to face the charges of what he has done against all of us.
These are poor children, orphans who have nobody. He was supposed to be the person who protects them. So he needs to go back and face justice, both him and his wife.
But Maggie wants the Dows charged in the United States.
Mary Rose Dow was convicted in Kenya for 2 counts of child cruelty. And she managed to pay $500 and was given back her passport. It's very disturbing because after all that had happened, these children, the health implications, what they're gonna suffer, the trauma that they had to go through, and they will continue to go through for the rest of their lives, was only worth $500.
NTV Investigates has learned of a secret joint probe between Kenyan authorities and the FBI. Several people who were either directly or indirectly involved with the home have been questioned in Bomet by detectives. Sources have also told us that James Kipkirui's body could be exhumed as part of evidence gathering and his remains interred at his parents' home. For the rest of the children, the events of 2008 to 2017 will remain a dark chapter of their life story. Innocence lost by the unthinkable crime of a couple they called parents. Edmond Nyabola, NTV Investigates.